friends, welcome back to my channel. So yesterday I made a video where I talked about the Booklist. Yesterday I made a video where I talked about the Booker Prize long list and thought about my intentions to read some of the books, maybe all of the books, before the prize is announced in October. That would be great, right? But it also made me reflect on previous year's long list and previous intentions and whether or not I've been successful with that goal when I've made it in times past. So today is Booklist Thursday, and I thought we would revisit one of those older lists and see whether I read the books, and you can check if you're one of those people who follow the Booker list as well, the Booker nominees. How did you do with reading the long list, whether before the prize was announced or just anytime since then? So here are the lists of usually 11 to 13 books are long listed, and you tell me whether you've read these books since then or not. You know, maybe they're still hanging out on your TBR like a lot of these would have been for me. So we're looking at the list from 2018, which was, I think, the first year that I said, I'm really gonna go after this thing. I'm gonna try to read the long list. Okay, so now I remember why this list was interesting for so many reasons. It was a little controversial. This was the year there was genre fiction on the Booker long list. Like one of the books was graphic, like a graphic novel, and one of the books was considered crime fiction. And yeah, it was interesting. But I did eventually read some of these books. So yeah, here's a long list. The first book, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The book that won the Booker that year was Milkman by Anna Burns, and I did read this one. I remember really enjoying it. I remember Sean the Bookmaniac really enjoying this. I think this was one of his favorite books of the year as well. Yeah, the winner of the 2018 Booker Prize was Milkman, which I did read. Other books on the list include The Long Take by Robin Robertson, which I did not read, and I am not familiar with that title. I actually don't remember it being on the list, even though it was shortlisted. So I don't know, that one just kind of passed over my radar. Lyrical narrative follows a good man haunted by war and violence, yet resolved to find kindness again in the world and in himself. No, I didn't read that one. I'm not sure why not, but I don't remember that title. Then there was Snap, which I did read. Snap, written by Belinda Bauer. And this was about a family. Yeah, it's an 11-year-old boy who's put in charge of his two sisters. They wait in this broken down car for their mother to come back, and she doesn't come back, and she never comes back. And 3 years later, they're still waiting, and Jack is still in charge of supporting them and all these things that he does to support his sisters. And it's a little bit about the life of crime. It's kind of like an Oliver Twist story. And yeah, it was a crime novel. A snap decision has devastating consequences in Belinda Bauer's thrilling and brilliantly unconventional crime novel is a synopsis. I read it. I remember liking it, but I also thought it wasn't a Booker book. So that was that. Then there's the book Sabrina, written by Nick Drnaso, which I remember was one of the reasons the list became controversial in the first place, because Sabrina is a graphic representation. It was a depiction. Here's a synopsis on the Booker Prize website. Nick Drnaso's damning depiction of a modern world devoid of personal interaction was the first graphic novel in Booker Prize history to be nominated. I also feel like another graphic novel probably won't be longlisted for a while. But here's the synopsis. Here's the real synopsis. That's the blurb, right? That's the intro. Where is Sabrina? The answer is hidden on a videotape, a tape which is on its way to several news outlets and about to go viral. Sabrina is the story of what happens when an intimate, everyday tragedy collides with the appetites of the 24 hours news cycle. When somebody's lived trauma becomes another person's gossip. When it becomes fodder for social media, fake news, conspiracy theorists, maniacs, and the terminally bored everywhere. I mean, I feel like that's pretty interesting. I never got around to reading this one. I think I remember reserving it at the library, and I just couldn't get my hands on it during the time when I needed it for, you know, reading the long list, that schedule kind of thing. I just never went back to it. Sabrina, graphic novel, long list for the Booker in 2018. And yeah, how do you feel about that one? Other books that were longlisted included Inner Mad and Furious City, Guy Gunaratney and Sean the Bookmaniac actually sent me a copy, and I still haven't read it. This was a debut novel, and it follows three young men on a London council estate over 48 mad hours where nowhere is safe and everything is at stake. These three men, Selvin, Ardaf, and Yusuf, growing up on the Stones estate, summer means what it does anywhere: football, music, freedom. But after the killing of a British soldier, riots are spreading across the city. And while the fury swirls around them, these two of the men remain focused on their own obsessions, but the friend is caught up in a different tide, a wave of radicalism surging through his local mosque. I remember wanting to read it, and I never did. So that also didn't make it to the shortlist. Maybe that was why. The Water Cure, I did read. I didn't like this as much. It was by Sophie McIntosh, and it was kind of a dystopic story about a family that is trying to cure women of the evils that have been done to them by men. I remember thinking it was kind of haunting because you could see where it could kind of happen, but also a little scary to read. Yeah. But yeah, I did read The Water Cure by Sophie McIntosh. Warlight by Michael Andante, I did read. This was this is the author of The English Patient. This is the author of The English Patient, and this is a man going back in time, revisiting his past. It's 1945. London is still reeling from the Blitz, and these two children are teenagers, really. They're abandoned by their parents, or kind of abandoned by their parents, and as they come to understanding the world, they understand where their parents have gone and why. And it's a little unusual. They suspect that their parents may be criminals or spies for the government, or I don't know which. It was really interesting. There were some interesting parts of that book, but I don't remember really loving it. Then there was Normal People by Sally Rooney, which I did not like. I read that. I didn't like Normal People. I've read another book by Sally Rooney since then, and thought this new book, the beautiful, Sally Rooney's book, Beautiful World, Where Are You? Yeah, that's the title. I really enjoyed that one. But this one was about Connell and Marion and this kind of love story that's not really love. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think the characters were normal. I just didn't really get invested in them. I remember that. Then there was From a Low and Quiet Sea by Donald Ryan, which I remember really liking. It was a story of three, was it three people? Let's look at that. Yeah, it was three portraits of three differently damaged men tied together with tender skill and compassion. It was a little bit of war and refugee, and the story that eventually connects these three men's lives, but doesn't seem like it will for a long time. I remember really being affected by this novel. I really liked it. I think I vlogged about it. You guys, if you want to hear my reactions, I used to do a lot of reviews and reading vlogs. You could check it out. And then, so there's Milkman, which I told you I read, and it's about the troubles in Ireland through the perspective of a young woman who she's trying to live her life. The middle child is usually the one they say is kind of starved for attention, but she is the opposite. She doesn't want all the attention that she gets. And yeah, it's the relationship in her family or between her family members, but also the thing that's happening in her life, which is, living in Ireland during the Troubles, I think. Then there's Washington Black, which I thought was brilliant. I really liked most of Washington Black. Really still, I intended to reread that book because I really didn't get the ending. But I remember really liking it. Ezzy Edoujian is a Canadian author, and she wrote about a young boy who's born during the period of enslavement in Barbados, and he attracts the attention of his owner and his owner's brother, and they take him out of they take him out of that situation, and he gets to travel the world doing some pretty unorthodox things, but he's also really brilliant in his own right, and you could see how he would be amazing if he had the opportunities, and especially the opportunities that his name seems like he should have, because his name is Washington, named after, you know, President Washington. And yet you're like feeling for this boy who turns into this young man, and the opportunities that he eventually claims for himself, but also that you see him living on the edges of because of, you know, period of enslavement, and also just discrimination, not just racism but discrimination. And yeah, Washington Black, I really liked it. If I had won the Booker, I would not have been mad. Then there was Everything Under, which I didn't read. That was Daisy Johnson's debut novel. It was retelling, I think, of a classical myth. Words are important to Gretel, always have been. She begins to remember the private vocabulary of her childhood. She remembers other things too, the wild years spent on the river, the strange, lonely boy who came to stay on the boat one winter, and the creature in the water. And yeah, I didn't read that. I don't know too much about it. Can't really chat about it. Then there was The Mars Room, which was a novel by Rachel Kushner, which followed a young woman who had committed some crimes and was in prison. And we're reading about her prison story. And I thought this book was really kind of fever dreamish, because some of the things that were happening were just like so unreal, but also gritty. And that's the word that they use here on the synopsis. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of really in your face portrayals of American life and the life that you don't want to be a part of. And yeah, I remember being really, what's the word? Being really immersed in this book and not wanting to be, and also not wanting this book to win, because I didn't want that to be the book that defined that year, like defined or portrayal of America that year. That may have been wrong. But yeah, I read that one. Then there's The Overstory by Richard Powers, which I never finally got around to. It's 9 strangers summoned in different ways by the natural world to save it from catastrophe. And so it's about climate change and about the world, seeing the world through the perspective of trees. I think there are there's a lot of tree talk in this book, and I think a lot of it happens on the Pacific Northwest, and so we're thinking about those giant trees. I don't want to say the word. Is it giant sequoia? How do you pronounce that word? Sequoia? Okay, guys, you have to understand something about me. A lot of my knowledge about Americana and about a lot of life is gleaned from reading, and so not videos. So I don't always hear how people pronounce words. I know how to spell them. I know how to recognize them. I know what they are, what they mean, but I don't know how to pronounce them myself, because I don't know how you say that word. Sequoia, giant sequoias. You notice how my voice went down. Giant sequoias. I'm gonna claim this. Is that how you pronounce it? I hope so. But no, I never did read the Overstory by Richard Powers. So yeah, those are the 13 books on the Booker Prize long list for 2018. The Long Take, no. Snap, yes. Sabrina, no. In Our Mad and Furious City, no. The Water Cure, yes. Warlight, yes. Normal People, yes. From a Low and Quiet Sea, yes. Milkman, yes. Washington Black, yes. The Mars Story, yes. So I read 8 of them. Yay! So let me know in the comments down below how many of these books you read, and that would be it for Booklist Thursday today. And I hope you enjoyed these videos, and if you do and you want to share them with someone else, go ahead. I would love to make some new bookish friends, chat with you, but chat with your friends as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back soon with another video, another bookish discussion, and I hope you join me for it. So yeah, until then, happy reading. Bye.